Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lie.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late, they cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I hide, my ancestors speak. They tell me the tide isn't front on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep, longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors beat drums until their bones would bleed, begging the generations remember our story.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Peace and blessings to the good people. I hope you got your streets salted down. Your cars are in good condition. I don't know if the storm hit you or not, but my prayers with y'all, especially if you got to go out in this. All right. I hope you enjoyed your weekends. Shout outs to my poets, writers, content creators. Shout out to the people, man. Just we here. We alive and well, and that's a cause for celebration. You see the title. We're gonna get into it this Monday morning. Start this week off. I got Coach in the building. I'm gonna bring him up on the big screen. I got a clip that I want to play for y'all to give you some backstory to why we're about to have this conversation. I wanted to get some ladies up here this morning. That didn't work out, so we still gonna chop it up. Yo, what up? What up?
Man?
How was the weekend?
Shit, it was cold, brother. Cold, and lonely. How about yours, man?
About the same. We finally got some snow out here. You know, I know everybody not big fans of it. I love it. I ain't complaining.
How much snow y'all get out there?
About 7 inches.
Is it still there or melted?
Not yet. It's still kind of cold, so none of it has gone away yet. I'd say give it by Thursday, it's probably gonna be all gone. It don't really last that long.
Yeah, right on. It's freezing out here. It's a good 20 degrees in San Antonio, so everybody going. The sky's falling. All the food's going off the shelves. Everybody's hibernating.
All right. You good though, right?
Oh yeah, we good, man. Shit, let's get it.
All right. This content creator on IG, man, she goes viral for a lot of her takes. This one, I never really thought about it too much, but I'm interested in hearing what you think about this. So I'm gonna let her get her bars off. Let me make sure I got her volume up. All right. Good.
A creator who said male content challenges them, female content validates them. And I could not agree more. The male centered content usually sounds like level up, get disciplined, fix your mindset, stop blaming everybody. Meanwhile, female centered content usually sounds like you're perfect the way you are. You don't need to change. Everyone else is the problem. Heal, be soft. Because when it comes to women and the kind of content that we usually consume, it's just to make us feel good. It's only to validate us in our current state. It's not to push us, it's not to challenge us. But then when you have women like me that come around and make content that challenges other women to be better, do better, to make the necessary changes, to fix the mindset, now I'm public enemy one. Because I'm not telling you you're perfect and your shit don't stink. I'm telling you the real. And a lot of women don't like that. A lot of women don't like to be held accountable. A lot of women don't like to be told that they're wrong. And that's the problem. I'm not saying that women shouldn't be validated. What I'm saying is don't confuse comfort with empowerment. Validation feels good, but validation without accountability is how people stay stuck. I saw a content creator.
Do we go with the obvious question first, true or false, or do we dive deeper into the difference between being validated for just confidence and uplifting a person's spirits, and ensuring that they go out here into the world and they don't get manipulated and played, and they don't have low self-esteem? Or do we just start off with, all right, matter of fact, let's start off with this, true or false? Is the content between men and women severely different?
What do you mean by severely different?
Basically what you just said. Are we saying, all right, you wrong for this, while they're saying, get your bag, and we're not going to really put the light on you for your bad behaviors. You're justified in feeling how you feel. And then we go back over to the male sphere, and it's basically, you wrong for that, bro. You need to get off your ass. You need to go to Indeed. You need to get up, get your routine going.
I mean, the content seems to be balanced. Just whatever you choose to highlight on at that moment, you can highlight on, because she also said in the video that she provides content, but not in that formula. So I won't say that it's severely different, but I mean, yeah, everything is different. Everything is again, content. What you're doing is you're attracting the type of people that you can feed, good, bad, or indifferent. If they're gullible, if they'll listen to anything, whatever the case may be, then if that's your target audience, essentially you're marketing to them. So it just depends.
Honestly, I'm seeing more content creators sprout up, like Kevin Samuels. They're not directly taking his formula, but they're confident enough to say, all right, this is a niche that doesn't get addressed enough, right? We always see these conversations about what men aren't doing and what they need to do, and this, that, and the third. But no one is really holding women accountable for the things that they are putting out here on the internet, for how they dress, for how they communicate. So it's more likely less of us doing it than it is of men. Men have been, as of the last few years, been having these conversations, but you don't really hear the woman's perspective of it. So let's jump on this market. It's in dire need of it. You don't get this very often. The brothers are going to appreciate seeing more of us doing it. That's work. But I don't think that it's even at all. It's still vastly a larger number of men having these conversations than there are women having these conversations. But I do want to shout out her, because she does talk about different things. She doesn't just talk about dating and stuff like that. She covers anything from religion to the government to conspiracy theories. She's very versed. So I do appreciate that. But I do believe men's content is more centered around neutrality when it comes to both sides. But I do see a number of women starting to step into that field too.
Well, I mean, because you can only bullshit for so long, man. And what happens is, like, the Kardashian run is finally, run its course. So the people that the women out here and men that out here running to Sonobello and all these other places to work on their bodies, and they in their mind, they still see themselves as the way they see themselves after the trauma and the work that they get done on their bodies. Just like that individual, the dude that got the kneecap extensions or whatever he did. So people are still going to, feel them way about themselves. It doesn't really matter the different platforms that you have, whether they're even or not. It just had to be effective. And so what's effective nowadays is just being blunt and honest. It used to be looked at as if, it was rude, disrespectful, you didn't care about people's feelings. But now you're to the point, man, where the only way to get across to people is by being, VFR direct. And you only got about 10 to 13 seconds to do it, or they're scrolling on to the next thing. So, it's that attention grabber, that shock DJ syndrome you got to have when you're talking to somebody. You got to be able to shock them, and then reel them in to get their information. And then, long enough for them to actually pay attention to what you're talking about. Because the issues, like she said, when you're looking for validation, you're not looking to understand anything. And that's where the issues come into play. The next person validates you. The next person validates you. Again, and it's like we talk about these photos on social media. Everybody's on social media, but what's the content in the context of the content? Or is it just a photo with somebody showing off some curves, some cleavage? Or, is it a man, showing off pecs, quads, whatever the hell, calves, to get that eye candy and to lure people in. So it's not necessarily about the substance anymore. So that's where the disconnect is coming into play.
It's scary to think that on both sides of this conversation, that most of the content that we see is not really organically tailored to the audience for the reasons that they think they are. Like, you don't really actually care about the discussion itself. It's just because, well, if I'm looking at my analytics, it says that 65% of my audience is centered around this. So that's what I should just talk about. That's why, like, I never really cared about that shit. Like, I want to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. I just don't want to be specific to one thing, because when it comes down to it, you can't please everybody. You're not going to please everybody. The attention span is short. You got to grab them right in grab them by their neck and shake shit up and do all this other stuff. And it's like, man, I'm not about to sit up here and dance for all y'all like that. Like, I'm trying to speak to certain people for certain reasons, and that means that I got to just be me. But I understand the science. I get it. Do you think, or do you believe that these discussions are organic these days, especially when we're talking about validation? You know, some people, well, I'm gonna stop right there. So again, my question is this about validation, or do people really care about the content that they're putting out? Is the content really just about the views, clicks, and likes? Or are they actually having these conversations on both sides because of the demographic?
I have no idea. You're asking me to speak on people's mindsets and what they're doing. I have no idea. Either if it's helping somebody, I don't think it matters either way. But if it's harmful, then it definitely need to be some regulation and some thought process going behind it. And that goes back to what we talked about months ago when they were saying in China and other countries that people will only be licensed or authorized to speak about certain things online, because if you're not technically licensed or have a certification in it, then you could be potentially giving people harmful information based off your experiences.
To be fair, when I first listened to her, I wanted to make sure I didn't just jump off the cliff. That's why I opened up and I said, shout outs to the ones that's really starting to come out, because I know a few of them, their style might not be for you. Some of them are very like vulgar with their language, but they're telling the truth. And then there's others that use statistics and diaphragms and things like that to showcase their work and show you this is what's actually happening. I'm not just up here to butter you up. I'm not trying to be a pick me. It's not about any of that. I'm really trying to help your dumb ass out, because you seem to continue to think that a lot of these centered conversations are being honest. Some of them are just there to inflate your ego, but they're lying to you. You know, it's about money. It's about making a living. And if that means I gotta sugarcoat stuff and I gotta say things to make you feel better, then I'm gonna do it. But when I get off this camera and I go about the rest of my life, I'm not doing nothing that I'm saying up here. Or I'm doing everything that I'm saying up here and it works for me. You don't really care about it, but that's not my business as long as you tuned in. Versus if I listen to somebody like anyone in the red pill community, they tell you that you need to start eating better. You need to get you a workout routine and hit a gym, etc., etc. I know you're telling me the truth because you're talking on certain things that I myself have already evaluated, and I know that I need to acknowledge and I need to work on.
I don't get it, man. So are you saying that you picking and choosing the stuff that you're listening to from people because only unless you've experienced it and you're aware of it, then you'll listen? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
That's kind of closed-minded because you're not going to know everything. So if you're not familiar with it and you don't believe it, then that poses an issue. Why not go back and do some research on it versus just not believing and being closed-minded?
Well, I take bits and pieces of information I get from different parties. I confirm whether or not it works for me, and I proceed further. I don't really just go off of face value.
Nobody's saying you should, but in one breath you're saying you don't listen to nothing unless you already know it, and then the other one you're saying you take bits and pieces back and get information, as in which everybody should. So it just what she was saying. Some of the issues you can see women having is a lot of times they may the bias, so it might automatically be assumed that men aren't taking into consideration or account of how they feel, and all those different things. Because, like she mentioned, we're more or less to the point. To try to get to the point, figure it out, and more solutions and problems based versus feelings and worrying about all that other stuff. So that's some of the issues that you can see when trying to give advice to other people. But at the same time, people just have to be willing to receive it. And I think people just aren't as receptive anymore. And people don't want to put the work in. Like she said, in the case of looking for validation, it's easier for me to go listen to somebody or to only agree with posts that validate or resonate with how I feel. So you're looking at something and just saying, "Oh yeah, definitely, I can relate to that," versus something saying you actually need to put some work in. You actually need to be accountable. You actually need to track these stats as far as for how you've actually shown progress and gotten better at something. So it doesn't matter if it comes from a man or woman, if they're giving you advice, and you should take the time to at least entertain it and then listen to it, because it can be both good, bad, or indifferent. But you can take that information and process it, and then it can probably get you a little bit further than where you were yesterday, versus taking offense to it and not doing anything with the information. Period.
I think the only reason a person would get offended by certain information is because it triggers something in them that requires them to look in the mirror and accept the fact that you are the problem.
But that's the problem, is when you're looking for validation and not problem solving. You know what I'm saying? So everybody out here, and it's leaning heavier towards, the women, as we were talking earlier. It's because they're the ones that's posting the post about healing, about just letting things go and letting it be. If it's meant to be, it'll be. And that's all stuff that you're doing without putting the work into it. It's all stuff that you want somebody to accept you who you are, but you more than likely got an issue with the way other people are. So again, it's that whole having that cake and eating it too. And I think you just getting to a point now where people are realizing their value and their worth. One of the biggest things people talk about right now is you take sex out of a relationship. What more do you have? Can you even have a conversation with that person that you're probably sharing a home or a bedroom with? You take sex out of the relationship, does that person even care about your wants or needs? You take sex out the relationship, are they even thinking twice about, making sure that you're good to go on their way home? It's just different things in that, within that vein, because for whatever reason, sex becomes the negotiator. The more sex we have, the more somebody may lean to doing this. The less sex we have, the more they may give, a shit less about empathy in the relationship and problem solving. So, it's 2026, man. Everything's on the board. So you need to be looking at everything and crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
How important is it to consume certain content in 2026?
What's the certain content?
For development, for mental development, for spiritual development, for physical development. There was a video that I watched the other day that was talking about basically social media has turned us into slaves to it, because we spend most of our life in front of our devices. And we've talked about it before, but hearing somebody else confirm it too made me ask this question. All right, you can't predict if a person is going to be genuine or not, but you can be mindful of what you listen to and what you watch. So how important is it to turn on your TV, turn to the search engine, type in such and such, such and such, and take it for face value, or just kind of brush by it and keep scrolling until you find something that is actually retrofitted for your lifestyle. Unless you want to just spend the rest of your remaining years consuming fatty foods and sugary sweets that do nothing but screw your body up.
Yeah, I, it's as important to that individual as it is to them. If they want to be in a better space, if they want to, continually to progress, you have to learn more. You have to continue to move forward. We talk about evolution. We talk about people evolving. Being uncomfortable because you have to continue to grow. So if that's what you're seeking out, then just like you go to the store, now you're not going to the store. You're not going to Barnes and Nobles. You're going on Amazon and getting your book. I mean, so social media, you can try to run from it, but I would say try to learn how to navigate within it, because it's not going anywhere unless you're just going to literally unplug and sit around somewhere. And I hope you don't do it by yourself. I hope you at least got a group with you. That when the grid goes down, that way everybody's good to go. You're not quitting cold turkey trying to figure it out. Have a plan B, man. You don't have to do everything online, but there aren't as many libraries that are open anymore. A lot of social gathering spaces are kind of closing down. A lot of the brick and mortars are closing down. So you got to find an alternative, whether it's just getting a group of people and sitting in the park and communicating or whatever it is. You got to find something if you don't want to be in front of the computer. And that's the problem, is people ain't sitting in front of the computer, and they also ain't finding nobody else to talk to. So it's limiting those soft skills and those motor skills. So, they need to find an alternative.
Life without social media for an entire month. I wonder how social a person would be. Like, I wonder if they'd be fidgety, if they glitch, if they have a little, because they don't know how to be without the device, but they still know how to say hello. Would they know how to sit there and have a conversation with you for 10, 15 minutes without constantly having their hands searching for their phone or looking for something to put in their hand, as a distraction to keep away from actually having that interaction with the person? What it would look like to be in the house with their family and their kids, and be out in public with their friends. Would they still be laughing and joking? Would they be able to clown with each other? I wonder what a month without social media would look like. What relationships would look like. What your senses would look like. Would you be, what's the word I'm looking for? Weaning off of it like a drug. You used to drink, or used to have a cigarette habit. You go cold turkey. What the side effects would look like for somebody without social media. I wouldn't mind seeing a show like that. Let's do a show where you take a group of people, you put them in a house, no Wi-Fi. You get rid of the phones, the iPads, the internet. All they got is each other for like a month or something like that, or like a year, and see how it would look.
Why would you want to see that? I don't understand the fetish behind it.
It's not a fetish. It's just there's a before and after. When I was a kid, we played in the dirt. We had fun. We played with the kids in the neighborhood. We were active. Now it's like you're just a walking zombie. And I did this experiment once before where I would go out in the public and I would just randomly just try to interview people, have conversations with people, just to see how people felt about certain topics. The video's still up, and most people are so like checked out. Everybody got their phone in their face. It's either they got their phone in their face or they can't even believe that you even are trying to talk to them. Like,
well, if you're trying to interview somebody, that would be weird. I mean, why would you just walk up to random people and try to interview them? So, I mean, I don't think you have a good reaction from that. But, I mean, that in itself is weird. So, I mean, everybody's got their own thing, man. Right now, everybody's just picking on social media. It's just the latest craze or the latest fad. I mean, okay, now what? I mean, all the people that didn't have social media, what are they doing? They were trying to be rappers. Now they're still 40, 50, 60 years old trying to be rappers. I mean, you can take anything and make something out of it. They sat outside all the time, didn't have computers. So instead, they sat on the corners and just tried to rap. And then they never grew out of it. Now they're still 50, 60, 70 years old, ain't doing shit with themselves and trying to rap or whatever the case may be, outside spray painting. Or, I mean, you can pick something, man, and use it. And it's disassociated people with their social skills. I mean, talking shit to people and cracking jokes on them, isolated people. And then they turned out to be the weird ones and not talking to everybody else, wearing trench coats or doing all that kind of stuff. You can pick an era or a fad and it's affected somebody in their livelihood and their lifestyles. But I think social media is just a buzzword and nobody really have shit else to talk about other than social media because it's no different. Smoking a cigarette. The only people that sit out in circles and talk are the people that smoking cigarettes together. Non-smokers ain't over there at the smoke pit hanging out with them. I mean, people that's drinking, they at bars. People that ain't drink ain't hanging out with the people at the bar. So it's just whatever one of them you want to pick. They all fucking up society and making people mentally crazy. They all control mechanisms and tools. So it's just which one you want to pick and talk about.
So if it's weird or a fetish to watch to see how somebody changes from being stuck in front of a camera all day, if that's weird, then it should be weird to sit up here and watch the Bad Girls Club where a bunch of women get up there and all they do is gossip and fight over men and get BBLs, and they 50 years old, 45, 80 years old, trying to have singing careers and get into acting, and that should be weird too. Then
you said get into acting, so that's a job, that's a career. Now, if you just only tying it in with the trash TV, I mean, it's still a job and they're getting paid for it. But it's weird if it's not considered to be quote unquote the norm or what you're trying to put inside that box. It's all weird.
So what's normal?
Well, I just said if it's not inside that box, so it's up to you, man. The first thing is you worried about what everybody else is thinking about and calling normal and weird or whatever the case may be. Normal can be whatever you enjoy doing for yourself. It's not a societal thing. That's the problem, is everybody's worried about what everybody else is doing in society versus just worry about what they're doing. You enjoy doing what you're doing every day. That's your normal. Your next door neighbor can see you watering your grass every day and call you weird. Go get a sprinkler. Why are you out there watering your grass with a hose every day? It's all about perspective.
So you have a large number of men and women who do street interviews. Are they weird?
Okay, let's get to the real point, because you're changing you're asking me the same question about different professions. It's all the same answer. It's all based in the same thing. The fact that you got a bunch of people that's out there interviewing people and the conversations they're having, yes, it's perceived to be weird. The conversations that they're having and what they're interviewing them on topics about sex, on topics about how many people they slept with, all those weird ass conversations. Yes, that's weird. There's a bunch of other people that are sitting around and enjoy watching it. So if you want to go through the category and identify everybody in the loop and that's on the internet, if they're weird or not, we can do that. But it's all subjective and about perspective.
That is what I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I mean, ain't nothing to try. It's the same thing. You can name any one of them, any genre. I mean, jackass going to jump down in a shopping cart and throwing yourself off a cliff. That I wouldn't consider that to be normal for me. That would be weird. I mean, again, so you can go through all these things that they're doing on social media and making millions of dollars off of it, which is also weird. But I mean, so just wherever you want to go with the conversation, you can go with it. It's not. Again,
I mean,
personal.
I mean, you said it's normal for him. You said I could be out in the.
I said for you being an individual, it can be normal for you. And I said I can be your next door neighbor, and I said I can look at you and say what you're doing is weird, but it doesn't change for you. That's why you shouldn't be worried about what other people are doing in their perspectives. You're worried about your own.
Okay.
You spent this whole podcast talking about other people.
Well, I guess because it come down to male content versus women content are they both doing the same thing or is it completely different? And they're
both trying to help somebody. Because again, my only thing is I'm thinking if they're providing that information, the intent, it's all about the intent. That's all I can say. If the intent is to try to help somebody, that doesn't mean you're going about it the right way, or that doesn't mean that the words necessarily are helpful. But if the intent is that you're trying to help something, then I can't be mad at the intent.
It wouldn't matter if you did or didn't, right? Because at the end of the day, it's for them. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother you directly because it's for the viewer who is entertained by it. So
I mean, you can't get mad. I mean, because I put out videos too, and I put out some stuff, and don't nobody put a thumb up or a like on it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I could be sit here and be mad, or what's the intent? Because all you can do is plant a seed, right? And initially it'll grow, it'll resonate with somebody. And if you got good intentions, then that's the only thing you care about. If you're pure in what you're trying to do and trying to help somebody out, do the best that you can, put some good positive energy out there into the ether. And if you're looking for, again, that validation piece, because that's where the validation comes in. If you're looking to get something back because you put something out there in the universe, then it's probably not for good intentions. It goes back to that intent. So again, I don't care, man. If I feel like I went through an experience and I think I can help somebody, because they say a smart person learns from themselves, but a wise person learns from someone else. So by me being, quote unquote, vulnerable and sharing something, I'm thinking that this could possibly help somebody, or they can identify with it. And then we can probably start that correlation in that relationship from that point on. But like you said earlier, I'm not throwing something out there, a rock into the ocean, trying to hit everybody. Because, I mean, that's not my intent. And then I probably would be overwhelmed and wouldn't be able to do that myself and put myself in a mental space where I would no longer be beneficial to that person or myself.
So what it really boils down to it is mind our business. Well,
like I said, it just depends on what your goal, man, and your objective is. Because that if you're some people call them healers. If you're a healer and you see something, we talk about say something, then that is your business. You see somebody going through something and you try to reach out. Now, where you have to be careful and draw the line, right, is because if you try to help out and now they don't want that help, then you just keep it moving. Not antagonize and try to tell them what they're doing wrong, because that's what a lot of times you can't marry the two together, because it becomes emotional and personal that now somebody's trying to be right. Does that make sense? I'm trying to help you out. No, you're just trying to be right. This is not what's wrong with me. So now it just becomes a discord going back and forth on what the initial objective was just try to help somebody and provide some advice. You know what I mean? To keep it moving. So, but yeah, that's why I say, yeah, I agree with what she said. There's definitely a difference in the validation piece. And then again, that's when we start talking about personality assessments and all those other things that I talked to you about. Because the personalities, you know, they're shaped by the environment that you're in and through your experiences. So somebody can give you advice and have good intentions, but because of your experiences, maybe with the, you know, the previous person of that gender, and it might have came out chauvinist, and now you put everybody in the box, and it might not receive that information, but it could become from somebody of the same gender, and then it could be again received as validated because that's my sister or my brother, and they're trying to help me out. You know what I mean? Because now that's your experiences again that are coming into play and that emotion. So now this is where the issue becomes: it's the sender and not the messenger, or the messenger and not the message. If that makes sense.
I think that's what makes the conversations better.
Is the messenger?
No, you having two different perspectives.
Oh yeah, right.
Based on
and be open to
it. Yeah. The closed-minded part is what makes it difficult. It's like you're talking to a brick wall. So
right.
Yeah, I agree with what she said. I do think that the part that I think bothers me is the subjectivity to it, because you're getting this information and you're spreading it to people based off of how you were brought up, and you don't want to really listen to the comments. You don't want to hear nobody else's opinions. Like, I could see if you say, all right, here's the table, I got a chair, you got a chair, let's sit, let's break this down, let's really talk about it. Why do you feel the way you feel, and why do I feel the way I feel, and let's just lay it all out here for the general public, because you got viewers, I got viewers, and maybe they think the way you think. We don't really realize it. We might have some similarities. We might be seeing some things in each other that we could actually unpack here, and like, oh, okay, yeah, now I see what you're saying. I didn't get it at first. It was never explained to me that way before, and that's why the disconnect is the way it is. I wouldn't mind seeing more of that.
Man, listen, man, I 100% agree, right? And that's the biggest thing that you don't see, because what you just said is exactly how it's supposed to happen. But what happens is people will just say, well, you don't see my point, so ain't no point in having a conversation. Well, what about my point?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even acknowledge that I had a point. You know what I mean? And so then that's why, you know, you often hear people say they need a moderator or a mediator, and or you need a third party. But for me, the issue has already aligned right then and there when you don't have respect for one another to even just listen to what each other has to say. So that at that point, the respect is so far gone. Even if you have a third party, now it's going to be a 2v1 at some point, because the only things that are going to be talked about is to angle whose side, versus just to have the upfront hard conversation as far as, so here's the issues. This is what I would like to see happen, you know, and how we can go about solving these problems. And people aren't doing that. When they talk to people, they start to shame the other person in the party to try to get an angle or advantage. And when you're doing those things, it's hard to say you're trying to heal, because everything you're doing, you're on a defensive mechanism. And that's when you see these women posting the content talking about just being yourself. I'm in my effing mode era. I ain't doing X, Y, whatever the case, the new terminology is for social media. but it's basically I'm not communicating with nobody. It's my way or the highway, and that's just the way it's going to be. Okay, well, that's great. And then what happens is they start leaning in to already reaching out to another party, and the other party don't know what's going on, but they giving them the best version of each other, what you call the honeymoon phase a few weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? So now, why would you listen to the person that's trying to help you when the other person is being exact person to everything that you need and want? And that's what happens when people start to not communicate and lose that effective communication and start allowing third parties to come in, i.e. the internet, with the social media memes and all that type of stuff. Those things is just as divisive as another person coming in, because if they continue to go towards your algorithm and pop up with the things that you want to hear, then now you're going to think that everything that you're talking about has extensive points behind it and supported by the algorithms. So it's just different situations nowadays that you got to be careful with, especially with the algorithm, how it align everything to pop up on your feed, almost as if it's people think that the phones are listening to you, but it's just basically going off of your likes and dislikes and just aligning those things to be better aligned with you as an individual. So you definitely want to take those things into consideration when using the internet, good, bad, or indifferent. They all have some things out there to kind of manipulate your thoughts and your algorithms. All right, we got a question from the audience. Let's see. What's up? Y'all freezing out there? Hey, stay warm. It's still early. Supposed to warm up a little bit today. So one of the other things that you look out is research indicates that men often adopt a direct approach, which can be perceived as confrontational by women who may prefer a more empathetic dialogue. And there's nothing wrong with that, but being the man, and if you're trying to problem solve, and then you're being the woman and you're on the other end receiving that, and you don't like that necessarily, that approach that's going on, that's a good time to have that conversation. Bring it up, ask for a timeout, pause, and try to figure out how to continue going on the best course of action. All right, his internet went out due to the storm, so we'll go on for another 3 minutes and wrap this up. Also think about past traumas. If you think about not talking about the trauma that you have and you're in a relationship, then that's a negative on your end, because how do you expect to be still going through trauma, still going through situations that you haven't healed from, and then you don't bring it up to the person that you're in a relationship with? So now you talk about trust and you talk about, ways to build, and then you're coming into the relationship with secrets, especially if it's a long-term relationship and you've been holding those secrets for an extended period of time. Those are things that you need to talk about and get those things hashed out. I feel like with some women want the fluff, and that's how some work. They keep things hidden. Absolutely. For some strange reason, they think that any type of turmoil that you have, or turbulence, is bad, which is completely not the case. You got to go through those times when things aren't necessarily the best. When you work on them, at the other end of that, it should be a stronger team. It should be a more defined team, because now you've worked through some hard times and you found ways to communicate. And you found ways not only to communicate, but to problem solve together. And that's issues that you can't do. You can't have issues problem solving if you're part of a team. The main purpose and reason of being on a team is you got more people on there to come up with ideas and suggestions on how to problem solve and how to come up with these different things. So if you aren't problem solving together as a team, and you're taking your problems to somebody that's not on your team, and then you're bringing back their problem solving techniques to you, how does that work? How does somebody not on the team help come up with problem solving techniques that only you and each other know about? If that's happening, that means they're giving parts and bits of information to those individuals, and then they're coming up with a plan. And then you're sitting there coming up with your own plan. Then when you come back together, your plan is not going to be the same. And those are some of the issues you have moving forward. And it's because you can't move forward. It's because they have a plan that's devising one thing and your plan is something else. So it's definitely dangerous for people to think they're perfect the way they are. We've all been through something. We've all been through some forms of trauma, and as the years go by, there's new forms of trauma that we've been identified that we didn't even know anything about, that we went through, and we just thought it was a good time, and we celebrated and talked about through our good times and bad times, reminiscing and reflecting. And it just identifying that those are another sources of trauma that we haven't healed from. And if you haven't healed from it, and you're thinking you're perfect the way you are, then you're part of the problem. You very well may be perfect just the way you are, but you being perfect the way you are in that relationship, that perfection might not benefit that relationship because that person isn't a direct replica of you. So that way you won't be perfect together because your communication styles are going to be different. Your learning styles are going to be different. The way you identify with things are going to be different. So you can't say that you're perfect the way you are, but you can strive for perfection in what you're doing and try to be a better version of yourself. And that way, you and the other person in that relationship can have something to work on. Though those words and those the perfection may also be their own personal standards. Doesn't leave room for a growth mindset. Absolutely. A great comment. Perfection may also be their own personal standards, and that doesn't leave for room for growth. Absolutely, because if you're in a relationship, you want to make sure that you got to leave room for growth because you didn't have that person in your life prior to. So now you got to learn how to identify and cope and navigate and problem solve with that individual and their traumas and things that they've come with and they're trying to heal with, along with your traumas and your things that you're trying to heal with. And that way you can merge together as a team moving forward. So you definitely can't reflect on your own personal standards and say those are the standards that we both need to reflect our mind, possibly come up with some shared standards, some shared things that you guys want to talk about, put those items up on the vision board, and then work through those items together. Some of the things that can help you out is knowing the individual's style of their strengths. If they're friendly, they're talkative, adaptable, optimistic, encouraging, you want to make sure that you identify with some of those things because those are things that they have strengths on and you can build on a relationship with their strengths. Another thing to think about is their weaknesses. If it's difficult with follow through, they don't pay attention to detail, easily distracted, more concerned with popularity than results. Like now, people are more concerned with social media, more concerned with somebody having a certain amount of likes. You put a heart on somebody's photo. Tendency to overpromise and underdeliver. They always say, "Hey, I'm going to do these things," but then they don't. That lack of follow up. You're going to be able to have conversations with those people, and that's the type of things that's going to help your relationships progress. What's up, man? How you doing? That storm kicking your butt over there?
Yeah, man. I ain't know it was that bad, bro. It just like completely cut me off. I didn't even know this train was still running until I hit the whole reset and everything. But yeah, man. What I missed?
No, man. Squish just brought up. We was talking about standards and perfection, and some people's their version of perfection is their own personal standards. So that doesn't leave room in a relationship or the mindset to grow. So we were just kind of talking about that for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, man. Shout outs to Squish Arcana for pulling up. My apologies for the mishap. I'm just going to say this before we get up out of here, though. I think both parties, man and woman, perspectives are important on this platform. I don't think the internet is terrible. I think that there are people who use it for nefarious reasons, and you have to vet that properly. You got to know who is doing what, and then move accordingly based off of that to protect yourself and anybody else that is consuming it as well. They're going to do what they do regardless. It's up to you to make sure that you're doing what you need to do for yourself. In that same token, validation is a hell of a drug, man. It don't even matter if it's good feedback or negative feedback. As long as people are getting it, that's all that matters to some people. And I'm not one of them.
Yeah, no, man. Feedback is essential, man. You know what I mean? There's no way for you to become better or to do better or just to be, even to reject mediocrity if you can't accept feedback. And if every time somebody gives you feedback, you're on the defensive, then you definitely got some bigger issues and some bigger underlying problems you need to go handle out, because everything's not an attack, and especially you should welcome feedback, because that means somebody's investing in you. They see something in you that they're trying to help you accomplish, and you put that ego to the side and then appreciate the fact that somebody's willing to invest in you and give you free advice. Then we all might be in a better place.
And with that said, I'm gonna close out. Appreciate you for being here this morning, brother. Holding it down when I had that glitch.
Yeah, I got you.
We're gonna be back later on. The whole crew gonna be here. So tap in later, 7 o'clock. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. Stay warm, stay safe out there. And yeah, we out.
Mantra, slave song, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I am, my ancestors speak. They tell me the tide isn't run on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep. Longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors beat drums until their bones would bleed. Begging the generations remember our story.